A new survey of transgender Americans finds more people are traveling less frequently as a result of the 2024 election outcome. Let's get some insight on the effect on the LGBTQ community by turning to Brad Sears, senior scholar at UCLA's Williams Institute. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Some transgender people fear that differences in, let's say, their California Real ID and the passport could create problems with the Transportation Security Administration. Let's start with documents and documentation.
Yeah, I think people have real concerns that they might get stopped when they are traveling. They get checked by TSA. If their gender identity doesn't appear to match what's on their documents, they might get questioned. And we're hearing stories about people who are having their passports actually changed or update denied.
And there's also a fear that goes beyond the paperwork, if you will. I believe 70% of people said that they were less likely to go on vacation. Transgender people said they were less likely to visit states that they view as more hostile to the transgender population.
Yeah, I mean, really, we kind of have a tale of two countries in the U.S. right now. About 3/5 of states have laws that target transgender people in a negative way. States like California and about 1/5 have states that support transgender people. Those who live in states with more negative laws are looking to move out, and those who live in states with positive laws are fearful about traveling to those states.
I remember somewhat similar discussions after the Supreme Court reversed Roe versus Wade, parents saying, I don't know that I want to move to a state where my daughter one day couldn't get the health care she needs. Is this similar in any way to that?
I think it really is, and I'm really glad that you point out parents. I mean, I think our survey was of adults, but the fundamental choice here is, am I going to change who I am or where I am? When you think about that in your child, it's like, am I going to let the environment around them change how they live, or are we going to change where we live? That's just a really tough decision for a parent to have to make.
There's even division within California.
Yes, obviously there are parts of the state that are more supportive. We've also seen a lot of activity, particularly at the school board level, with school boards passing policies that are not as supportive of LGBTQ youth.
Have you heard directly from people who've said, I'm changing my plans?
Yeah, we've heard people, I've had people reach out to me asking about their passports, asking about traveling. I've had employees who are out of the country, fearful about, even though they're documented, legal, coming back and forth into the country right now. So it's a real fear. The results of this study about moving and traveling was part of a larger study. And one of the, I think, it kind of brings into perspective, what does it mean to stay? What if it means if you don't move? People are isolating more. They may be going back to their old pronouns or even their old names because they fear more discrimination and less support from their communities.
And from people who say, look, it's just a name on a document, how do you answer that?
It's a name on a document, but it also can be a very uncomfortable search and interview at the airport. For a lot of, for several people that I spoke to, they said, I've never had a passport. I've never had an ID here in California that didn't represent who I am today. This really came home in the fires where people had lost their documents in Los Angeles due to the fires. They needed to apply to FEMA. Well, the new administration says you're either male, or you're a man or a woman. There's no such thing as transgender people. People had to face a choice. My house burned down. Do I get my California ID to be consistent with the gender I no longer identify with so I can work with FEMA? Or do I comply with this new federal policy so I can get the support I need?
All right. I'm glad you've been able to sort of broaden the conversation a little bit. Brad Sears, thank you for your time and your expertise this morning from UCLA.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.